Part 2. How do teachers support each student's individual needs? So let us get started with part 2 of this module in this topic. We will focus on understanding how the teachers in a competency-based classroom can support students in their specific learning trajectories and help them develop competencies across domains through a personalized approach. Competency-based learning environments adopt learner-centered pedagogical practices to support personalized learning. These are characterized by three key features. Learner-centered classrooms support multiple modalities or modes of teaching and learning. Learner-centered classrooms support continuous shifts and adjustments to accommodate students' needs and interests. Learner-centered pedagogy is about responsive facilitation. Learner-centered classrooms support multiple modalities. To support personalized learning, learning spaces in competency-based environments are often restructured to support multiple modes of learning simultaneously, enabling flexible pacing, fostering student autonomy, and creating opportunities for students to learn and create from wherever they are. In mature personalized classrooms, there is no front of the room. Furniture is arranged to support different modalities of learning simultaneously, such as small group mini lessons, one-on-one conferencing, peer-to-peer discussions, and independent work. Teachers and students new to this approach often take time to introduce these practices one at a time. The paradigm shift requires a mindset change with new habits, norms, and practices. Learner-centered classrooms support continuous shifts based on students' needs and interests. The design of the learning space in a competency-based classroom is to maximize student agency by providing access to the full sequence of learning experiences, continuous data on formative and summative assessment about student progress towards competency. This is accompanied by purposeful interactions between teachers and students and amongst students, thus creating opportunities for rich discussion, feedback, and collaborative problem solving. For example, teachers can use a weekly facilitation planning tool to determine which students should be grouped together for a mini lesson or who should participate in a one-on-one conference. In both cases, specific learning targets are defined for the time. Learner-centered pedagogy is about responsive facilitation. Personalized competency-based classrooms rely on a few foundational pedagogical practices, all of which rely on the teacher conceptualizing her role as a responsive facilitator, someone paying attention to the learning needs and interests of the community, looking for ways to respond to these needs in a personalized way based on specific knowledge and understanding of each student. Let us look at the 5 pedagogical practices which are hallmarks of classrooms with teachers taking on the role of a responsive facilitator. Discovery-based mini lessons. These lessons emphasize inquiry, investigation, and conceptual understanding. Students are given inquiry-based or problem-based learning targets. Students generate their solutions and facilitate a learning experience through meaningful investigation. Let us see how Pythagoras' theorem can be taught using discovery-based mini lessons. By folding a plain sheet of paper, teachers can give a first-hand look to students on exactly how this theorem is applied.
You don't need numbers or fancy equations to prove the Pythagorean theorem. All you need is a piece of paper. There's a ton of ways to prove it, and people are inventing new ones all the time, but I'm going to show you my favorite, except instead of looking at diagrams, we're going to fold it. First, you need a square, which you can probably obtain from a rectangle if you ask nicely. Step 1, fold your square in half one way, then the other way, then across the diagonal. No need to make these creases sharp. We're just taking advantage of the symmetries of the square for the next step, but be precise. Step 2, make a crease along this triangle parallel to the side of the triangle that has the edges of the paper. You can make it anywhere you want. This is where you're choosing how long and pointy or short and fat your right triangle is going to be, because this is a general proof. Now when you unwrap it, you'll have a square centered in your square. Extend those creases and make them sharp, and now we've got 4 lines all the same distance from the edges, which will allow us to make a bunch of right triangles that are all exactly the same. Step 3, fold from this point to this one, basically taking a diagonal of this rectangle. Now we've got our first right triangle, which has the same shape and area as this one. Let's call the sides little leg, big leg, and hypotenuse. Rotate 90 degrees and fold back another triangle, which of course is just like the first. Repeat on the following 2 sides. The original paper, minus those 4 triangles, gives us a lovely square. How much paper is this? Well, the length of a side is the hypotenuse of one of these triangles, so the area is the hypotenuse squared. Step 4, unfold, and this time let's choose a different 4 triangles to fold back. Rip along one little leg and fold back these 2 triangles. Then you can fold back another 2 over here. The area of the unfolded paper minus 4 triangles must be the same, no matter which 4 triangles you remove. So let's see what we've got. We can divide this into 2 squares. This one has sides the length of the little leg of the triangle, and this one has sides as long as the big leg. So the area of both together is little leg squared plus big leg squared, which has to be equal to this area, which is hypotenuse squared. If you called the sides of your triangle something more abstract, like A, B, and C, you'd of course have A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So quick review. Step 0, acquire a paper square. Okay, step 1, fold it in half 3 times. Step 2, fold parallel to the edges anywhere you choose and extend the crease. Step 3, fold back 4 right triangles around the square and admire the area hypotenuse squared that is left over. Step 4, unfold and rip along a short side to fold back another 4 right triangles and admire the area one leg squared plus the other leg squared that is left. And that's all there is to it. Of course, mathematicians are rebels and never believe anything anyone tells them unless they can prove it for themselves. So be sure to not believe me when I tell you things like, this is a square. Think of a few ways you could convince yourself that no matter what the triangles on the outside look like, this will always be a square and not some sort of a rhombus or parallelogram or dolphin or something. Or, maybe it is a dolphin, in which case you should define what a dolphin is and then show that this fits that definition. Also, these edges look like they line up together. Do they always do that? Is it exact?
Explicit teaching of skills and strategies. Explicit teaching of skills and strategies help students develop their capacity to transfer learning from one context to another. These skills build competencies in students and nurture their autonomy as learners and thinkers. Modeling and thinking aloud are 2 good methods of teaching skills and strategies to the students. Modeling is a process of learning by observing others. In this, a teacher demonstrates a desired skill or behavior and describes the actions and decisions being made throughout the process. The student is motivated to imitate the actions of the teacher. Watching a teacher perform a skill successfully makes the learners believe that they can do it too. A math teacher solving an equation on the board or a science teacher demonstrating a procedure in the lab are examples of modeling strategies. To make modeling more effective, teachers can use it with think alouds. The teacher verbalizes what she is thinking as she reads or solves a problem. In turn, students also monitor their thinking process while understanding the text. As students think aloud, they internalize the information, which enhances their learning. On your feet formative assessments. On your feet assessments are Formative assessments that provide an opportunity for teachers to take stock of students' learning. Formative assessment opportunities provide students with additional learning moments and provide both teachers and students with critical data about students' understanding. Retrieval practice is an example of on-your-feet formative assessment that teachers can use in classrooms. Retrieval practice is the act of trying to recall information without having it in front of you. The method treats tests as occasions for learning rather than as a tool of assessment. Teachers can make use of quizzes, flashcards, group discussions, and self-questioning techniques to help students retrieve what they have learned rather than taking a formal test. A growing body of research has shown that the practice of remembering previously studied information, that is, retrieval practice, is a more beneficial assessment method than traditional examinations. Expanded student talks. Talk mediates all learning. We learn in and through language. Expanded student talk is a responsive facilitation practice in which educators expand opportunities for student discourse in the classroom. The method offers plenty of benefits to teachers as well as students. For teachers, talk enhances learning and increases their achievement in text comprehension. The verbal interactions between teacher to student, student to teacher, or student to student promote both critical thinking and problem solving. Discussions also move students away from strictly absorbing the material to becoming meaning makers. Expanded talks are also beneficial for teachers. The more teachers can listen in on how students are making meaning of new information, making connections to their existing knowledge, and identifying gaps or misconceptions, the more promptly they can provide tailored instructional support. Student conferencing. Student conferencing provides an opportunity for dedicated time for dialogue between teacher and student and the provision of specific actionable feedback. In learner-centered classrooms, conferences engage students in identifying where they are and in shaping the path ahead, fostering student ownership over their own learning journey. Let us see as an example how Ron Berger from the EL Education is using student conferencing to tell the story of Austin, who made a scientific illustration of a butterfly through multiple drafts towards a high-quality final product.
What would you guys say to teachers if they're not getting high-quality work? Could they learn something from this, and what would you say to them that they could do differently in their classrooms?
This is a story called Austin's Butterfly, and it's a true story about a first grade boy, and his name is Austin, and he goes to school, or used to go to school, in a town called Boise, Idaho. And in his class in Boise, Idaho, they were studying butterflies, and he had to do a project. His job in first grade was to draw a butterfly, and this is the butterfly that he picked. Austin had to use this photograph as his model, and he had to draw an accurate scientific drawing of this butterfly. This is called a tiger swallowtail.
I knew it!
Can you tell, Toby, why it's called tiger?
Because it kind of has the stripes of the tiger right there.
Good. So here was Austin's job. He was supposed to do a scientific drawing of that butterfly. But remember, Austin was only in first grade. And you know what he did? He forgot to look like a scientist carefully. He got his paper and he just started to draw the image of a butterfly that he had in his head. And he wasn't looking like a scientist, and so this is what he drew.
Whoa.
It's not bad, and it is a butterfly, but does it look exactly like this?
No.
No, it doesn't yet. It doesn't look exactly like this yet. And so they didn't look at this and say, good, Austin, you're done. They said, Austin, good start. Now we can start giving you critique so you can do a second draft and make it better, and a third draft and make it better, and you can make it much, much closer to this. And he was ready to go. All of the first graders in his critique group sat on the floor like you guys are, and they decided to split their advice into two kinds. First, just the shape of the wings. And then when the shape was right, they'd give him advice about the pattern inside the wings. Alia, what would you say?
You can make it much pointier.
Good. These wings could be much pointier. Who else would add something? Atak, what would you say?
About the angle, because not to be mean about
Yes.
the angle, it's just not exact. So
Okay, so show me. Come on up here, Atak. Show me what you would ask him to do slightly differently.
like to make it a little longer,
Longer where? Draw where you would do it.
right there.
Okay, so pull this out longer.
Yeah.
That's very specific, Atak. Thank you. Jamila, what would you say?
It's like triangle.
Good. Jamila, I love that. So you're saying more like a triangle shape. And I agree. Well, you know what? Those first graders came up with most of those same ideas. And you know what Austin said? He said, okay, I'll go try. And he went back to his seat and he drew this.
Wow.
Does this look more like a triangle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did he go out further, like Atak was suggesting?
Yeah.
Did he add some jaggedness here,
Yes.
like Cindy? Did he get rid of that bottom thing?
Yes.
So he did listen to his friends, and he made it better. It's not perfect. Toby, what would you say?
I'd say don't put those little tail things so pointed in. I'd say put them more pointed down.
Good. Okay, and Ethan, what would you say?
I think you should make the wings like this, not like this.
Okay, he listened to his friends, and they said, this is really a lot better, Austin. That second draft really is better.
Yeah, maybe you can make a third one.
Good. Maybe he could make a third draft. And so he did this draft.
That's the third draft.
That's his third draft, Hadley. That's just right. Elijah, what do you notice there?
Well, one wing's more pointed than the other, and that side is a little bit higher than the others.
Good. Coburn?
Right here, it doesn't have the inside thing still.
Ah, okay. Needs a little bit more of that notch. So, do you think maybe he should do a fourth draft?
Yeah.
Well, that's just what he said. He said, shoot, okay, I got round again. I'll go back and do a fourth draft. He listened. Does it look more even like Elijah was suggesting?
Yes.
Yeah, and does it look like it's coming out a little sharper, like Cindy was suggesting? And like Attack was saying, it's a little, the angle looks a little better. So now Austin was feeling really good. He said, am I ready to add some pattern? And they said, okay, why don't you try adding some of the pattern? And he did.
He's good at it. He is so good.
And then they said, Austin, you're ready for color.
Really?
Let's look at his last draft. And what do you think? Did it come out really good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually looks way.
What do you think about how much progress he made? And Tak, what would you say about his progress?
He made like a lot of progress. He persevered doing it. His friends were honest with him.
What was it about the kinds of advice that they gave that allowed him to get better each time? Hassan?
Well, they told him what was wrong about it.
Did they say it's just wrong, or were they more specific than that?
They were more specific, but they weren't mean about it.
Great. Hadley.
Made 6 drafts.
And so is that something that other kids should learn from? What should we learn from that?
We can make other drafts if it's not right.
Good. So if it's not right, you can keep doing more drafts to make it better.
You just don't use things in your head. You want to use a sharp eye.
Good. He used the eyes of a scientist. Great.
These pedagogical shifts begin the work of creating personalized learning environments in which both teachers and students collaborate in the work of becoming competent. Before summarizing the topic, I would strongly recommend that you go through the Learn More section and read cases and watch videos related to learner-centered classrooms and pedagogies. Let us now summarize the points that we covered in this topic. We talked about 3 learner-centered classroom pedagogical practices in this part. These are: learner-centered classrooms have a flexible environment that supports multiple modalities. Learner-centered classrooms support flexible student groupings based on students' needs, interests, and strengths. Learner-centered pedagogy is about responsive facilitation. Great! You have completed the topic on how teachers support individual students' needs in a competency-based teaching learning environment. In the next topic, we will be talking about learning experiences in CBE classrooms. Till then, goodbye.